kicked it off?
Yep.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
Okay. The first pillar that we're going to discuss today is smart growth. Really what smart growth is about is relationships. As we see here, it's connecting and engaging with individuals and businesses to create and deepen relationships and allow for profitability to grow. What we're further going to discuss is optimizing financial performance and how these pillars and following tactics tie into this. So as I mentioned, relationships. We need to create and deepen relationships to grow profitability. We need to establish strategies that account for the environment that we operate in. So for example, today in our market area, Chicago, we have a lot of direct relationships, and we really want to work to cultivate relationships not only with our members, but with strategic partners. The basis for these relationships is a risk-reward relationship. So we don't want to do anything that would jeopardize our reputation or jeopardize the member experience. We also need to account for the resources that we need to execute these relationships. So for example, do we have appropriate staffing? Do we have capacity in marketing to deliver on these? Do we have the appropriate sales skills in our various channels to deliver products and services to our members? The tactics chosen to optimize financial performance must not create unintended consequences, such as channel friction or conflict within the organization itself. Determining on how to maximize a chosen business line or product, given our current constraints and capabilities, is paramount in delivering in this strategy. What I'll do now is hand this over to Eric Bessel, and he's going to review the first three tactics under this pillar. Cut. Sorry about the stumble, guys. I'll get them. Any questions?
I think we're saving questions for the end of the thing.
No, for you guys.
We'll just start now.
No, I think we should just run through.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Eric?
Pretend it's real.
Right.
Is it space bar?
Yeah.
The first tactic we'll discuss under the pillar of smart growth is to improve our return on assets. Return on assets, or ROA, is an indicator of how profitable a company is relative to its total assets. ROA provides an idea of how efficient a company's management is at using its assets to generate earnings. ROA is comprised of several components: interest rate margin, operating efficiency, and non-interest income. Positive net income indicates success in some or all of these components. It's just that we may have earned more interest in our investments and our loans than we paid out in our dividends or our borrowings. It suggests that we were efficient with our expenses and increased our non-interest income. The ROA, or return on assets, is an ongoing metric. Our net income through April was $98,000 above budget. Our ROA for year end, our goal is 0.5% or better. Actual as of April is 0.18%, projected year end of 0.52%. By the way, I will get detail on the driving that. I don't have it yet, but I will have that in mind. The next tactic I wish to discuss for smart growth is enhancing our capital position. In 2020, there will be regulatory changes that require a risk-based capital plan. GLCU is exploring means ahead of the 2020 regulation to enhance our capital balances. A number of different approaches we're using includes exploring the low-income designation for the combined GLCU and North Shore membership. The low-income designation does provide us a number of benefits. We can deploy secondary capital resources. One near and dear to me is that we can receive exemptions to aggregate MBL loan limits and other benefits as well. One of the tools we're going to utilize Axiom profitability software, which I'll discuss more in my next tactic, but to capture the risk-adjusted rate and return on capital. And one of the benefits of that is it does that over the life of a product at the product level. And finally, the third tactic we're to discuss is migrating from a global margin management to a product level margin management. What we're trying to do with this is we're trying to measure, analyze, and improve our product margins to boost our ROA and our capital. In 2019, we're implementing Axiom profitability software to gain better controls over our profitability, our product profitability. Axiom provides a product level metrics over the entire life cycle, which will assist management to being able to make more informed decisions. The Axiom system design, financial data integration, and reporting milestones have been completed. The data quality, funds transfer pricing, organizational, and member profitability milestones are nearing completion. In addition, we're looking to implement Deposit 360 to provide core deposit data, including our member behavior analysis. This is also ongoing, and we got 2 out of the 3 phases are complete. We've completed our deposit data study for the years 2004 to 2018, initiated a basic Deposit 360 model. In July, we will complete the migration of the Axiom member attributes into our deposit activity. Next, I believe, is it Jody? Who's next?
Yeah, Jody first on
Would you hit the next slide?
Oh, sure.
So she'll see. Thank you.
Oh, you just-
Sorry, I was on mute. So great news, our deposit growth and checking accounts are both on track to exceed targets. This success comes through deepening relationships with our members by offering great products like a variety of certificates and companion money market, as well as easy savings through our spend and save. We have the best checking product around. I don't know if you all know that, but we focus on getting the word out and capitalizing on the benefits our product offers over the competition. We have established a solid marketing plan for 2019 that we continue to evaluate and adjust accordingly. We also evaluate our existing deposit products and services. Members look to us for relevant products to meet their ever-changing needs. So GLC's debit card account is coming soon. Millennials are not looking for a checking account, they just need a debit card. So we are also promoting deposits with Save to Win. Save to Win is a 12-month share certificate with unlimited deposit capabilities and the opportunity to win prizes, cash prizes, that is. Retention of deposits could be a roadblock to maintaining our target. As promotional certificates mature, we will have some runoff, but we are focusing on our 25 and 13-month certificates to save some of those accounts. Another area to focus retention efforts on is the silver tsunami, which I'm sure you've heard Steve mention, the large amount of deposits held by our aging members. We have been mailing thank you cards and calling our high dollar deposit members. We are also offering a special certificate to retain deposits on deceased person. Lastly, the relationship we have with local 134 members continues to grow through their vacation fund. Chris will now share our smart growth efforts through streamlining procedures and improving processes.
We have some exciting topics to cover in our streamlined procedures and improved processes tactic. Our balanced scorecard annualized hours saved metric was behind target at the end of the first quarter this year, but the organization really kicked it into high gear for April. We are now at a little over 1,300 hours saved. If we maintain this pace, we are projected to surpass our super target goal by the end of the year. One of our goals in leadership is to create a culture of continuous improvement within the organization. Having a culture of continuous improvement means that employees are engaged and dedicated to improving service to our members. Our business improvement group was started within the last year. They are a team of 2 and consist of a business process manager and a business process analyst. These 2 individuals lead efforts to identify improvements that need to be made. They then work with our IS team to implement them. To date, they have identified and implemented improvements that have resulted in hundreds of hours saved for the organization. In addition to our business improvement group, there are a number of individual departments that have really taken initiative in this area. One of these is our call center. They've implemented something they call Think Tank Thursdays. And out of this initiative, they have identified 66 new ideas for improving processes and procedures. This is coming from the people who use these systems day in and day out at the credit union. And this is employee engagement in action. Majority of these improvements that are being identified throughout the business are dependent on our information systems group to implement. Given the overwhelming number of items coming at this team, we quickly realized that A, we needed a way to deal with these requests in an organized fashion, and B, we need to be accountable with our deliverables. So to accomplish this, we've designed a process that allows departments to prioritize their requests and our IS team to set due dates and document their progress. Feedback on this process has been very positive so far. Moving on to our mergers and acquisitions. Our Northside merger project is progressing as expected with a merger date of August 1st. Due to new NCUA requirements, the member vote for Northside members is scheduled for July 18th. Northside's financial counseling team will be a great asset to GLCU. They have a proven model that reaches the underserved market by partnering with organizations within the community. Being active and present in the community is in GLCU's DNA. And by utilizing Northside's financial counseling tools, debt consolidation counseling, foreclosure prevention, and first homeowners counseling, GLCU has a great opportunity to expand our reach and increase our presence in the communities that we serve. This, coupled with our various financial and product offerings that Northside will provide us, makes this merger a real win for the organization. Our technology team has performed an analysis of Northside systems and network and are working on converting their member data and systems over to ours. New equipment for the Northside branch is being prepared for deployment, and training dates for staff are scheduled in July. Staff will be trained on GLCU systems to prepare our merger go-live date. Feedback from staff regarding the merger has been positive overall. The location search continues for a new branch location for Northside. The search team is weighing costs and other factors for locations in the preferred area. Northside currently serves the Edgewater, Uptown, and Lakeview areas. They have been successful in being present in these neighborhoods and collaborating with local businesses and volunteer groups. We look forward to continuing and expanding their success in these areas. Brett?
Thanks, Chris. So our next tactic here is increasing non-interest income. First, we'll discuss ancillary pricing and products. As I've discussed with many of you, some of the ancillary products that we offer are guaranteed asset protection, debt cancellation, and mechanical repair coverage. As we talk about what's been occurring in the ancillary product set, I want to bring a historical perspective to this. Over the past few years, about 3 years ago, we implemented a relationship with Community Mutual to bring this product set into the fold. What we've seen has been tremendous growth in all segments, which are contributing at a very nice rate to non-interest income. We evaluate these every 2 years, all these products, to make sure that we have the appropriate margins, that we're priced accordingly in market. And what we've seen when coupled with our sales efforts is growth that's soon to eclipse $10,000 a month for debt cancellation, and historical highs for penetration for GAP and MRC from our sales team. So truly wonderful performance and a key contributor. And this is only going to continue to grow over time. The next piece of our NII tactic is increasing interchange, top of wallet. What does that mean? What credit card or debit card do you primarily use? Well, we expect that it's a GLC credit or debit card, right, Yvonne? And we're seeing that because over the last 2 months, debit card interchange has actually been at near historic highs with over $510,000 in interchange income in the last 2 months. So that's significant. Congratulations, Yvonne. And what's been driving that are the spend and win campaigns. And also, as Jody mentioned earlier, we have a debit account that's currently under development with relaxed, easy pay ability for our members to encourage younger folks, younger members, to go ahead and open up those debit accounts so we can garner more interchange that way. And I went on the border here, I apologize. Now, we also talk about rewards. As you are aware, we are launching a new rewards program, and that will be fully implemented with our PSCUD conversion coming up here in a couple of weeks. Actually, will have just occurred as of the date of the strategic plan. So what we're able to do with a new rewards partner is we're able to drive marketing campaigns based on rewards for certain vendors. So for example, if there's a travel vendor and we see some spend there, we can increase our point bonuses to take advantage, to allow our members to take advantage of that. We also have credit line increases and balance transfer campaigns. Now, how is this going to contribute to NII? Well, as you know, with the balance transfer, there's a 3% fee. So what we're going to do, we're going through a credit line exercise. We haven't done that in over a decade here at GLC. And then we're going to follow up that with balance transfer campaigns. And the data that we're able to use, propensity to take advantage of those campaigns, we're going to work very closely. Lenny's going to work very closely with marketing to make that happen. And there'll be attractive offers, value-add offers to the membership. We're also going to increase revenue via leveraging existing and new partnerships. So we mentioned CUNA Mutual earlier from a partnership perspective. But what other partnerships are we really driving? We have the True Stage relationship, and that's our Liberty Mutual insurance relationship with CUNA Mutual. That's a brand of CUNA Mutuals. And what that drives into us, every time someone gets a policy, we get annuitized income stream off of that. So that's a very good thing. And what we just recently implemented in lending, we've integrated True Stage with Meridian Link, and that will be going live on July 15th. Now, what that will enable us to do is garner more quotes for new members that are taking out auto loans, new and existing members. We also have a long-term relationship with Trinell. That's our investment partner. So recently, with the 777 promotion, Trinell has made outcalls on our behalf to those members, not only to garner new business, but to let these members know that we have alternatives for them, investment alternatives. That also brings in non-interest income. And a relationship that I just took advantage of is our Sprint relationship. So every time a member gets a new line from Sprint, the credit union gets $25, and the member themselves get $100 per line. So that's a very nice relationship, and that's been a long-term relationship as well. We've also undergone a fee review. So the most recent fee review, we increased our foreign at-us ATM fees by 50 cents. So we're soon going to see through reporting how that's been impactful to the bottom line. We're also looking at non-member on-us checks. So when a member goes into a branch and they want to cash a check, when a non-member goes into a branch, they want to cash a check, there's generally a fee for that. And we're taking a look at how we can better garner non-interest income, potentially thinking strategically bring in new members. And another fee that we're also reviewing right now is our home equity line of credit, our annual fee. And there are several other fees that are currently under review. And I will turn this over to Mike. It's you, cultural transfer? No. Who's got cultural? Come on, thanks.
Would we be doing questions at this
Yeah,
time
we
for
would probably
that
stop.
pillar?
Yeah.
The pillar, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Any questions right now?
I have some questions, so, I have to go back, I was trying to make notes of them as we were going.
It's okay.
So, on the.
Stop the recording, or is that?
No, because you'll be answering
Oh,
like,
it's-
yeah, so, on the, we talked about loan sales being an issue. I noticed that that wasn't on the NII, slide. What are we doing about loan sales to drive increased income?
So that's a great question. So what we are currently doing, we are currently in review with a potential partner, Bring Capital. And we are looking at potentially selling a portion of the indirect portfolio as well as jumbo mortgages. So that is currently under review and in process.
And
Does
what,
that answer your question?
what about the traditionally sold mortgages?
I will defer to Jeff Wheat, our Vice President of Mortgage.
So from the mortgage standpoint, we've actually engaged in a campaign that we did start in March as going more towards the demographics as well as the background of our members into the FHA and VA market. Those loans are sold 100%. They are service released, but the reality of it is that they offer a lot higher premium on the back end. And what we can do with that for our members is we're offering a program to them that we've actually just extended into the fall, is that we'll give a minimum of $1,000 credit to get them into doing loan. How that works is we're essentially selling those loans and we're giving back some of the margin on the back end into the pricing. So it really isn't costing us $1,000, extra to do the loan. We're just giving away some of the margins. The margins are high enough that on a regular conventional loan, you still make more money on FHA and VA loan. And we actually sold over 700,000 of those in May, and we're targeted to sell over 1 million of those in June.
We mentioned under capital that we were exploring a low-income designate. What happens if we don't qualify?
Chris?
No, that was Eric.
Eric?
Eric?
That's a good question.
Mhm. And Diana, you might need to step in with options here to help out.
Yep.
Phone a friend.
Yeah. We just get our,
Don't film me.
we just got our results Friday, and we needed 50 I think it's 50.01 or 50.1, and we came in at 49.8 something. So we are a little bit shy, and so now we do have to look at options. Here's our options. The combined initial study was looking at March numbers. When we get to the actual merger date, we'll be looking at combining for August 1. So we'll have more accounts on the books, and charge-offs will have impacted our membership, so that can change the dynamics there. The other thing that we can do is look at our addresses that have listed a PO box, and it's surprising. We have about 3,000 accounts that are listing a PO box as the mailing address, and that's what the default is set up as in the file. So we'll be able to rerun the file, getting the physical street address, and have them rerun it based on that. And that should bring us over the small amount that we need to overcome at this point.
What is that number you're quoting, the 50, we're at 48? What does that represent?
Yeah, let me pull up the email. I'll give you the exact, I don't remember if it was 50.01 or 50.1.
What is that number?
Percentage of our membership that is considered
Percentage of
low.
membership?
Yeah, sorry about that. Percent of our membership that are living in a low-income designated area.
And we needed to be 50,
Like, oh, one or something.
And Diana, that's our total membership, not just our direct, right?
That's right.
Correct. Mhm.
Diana, I have a question on that. If, let's say it's 50.1, and post-merger, we're at 52%, let's just say. How often do we rerun
Yeah.
those numbers?
It's a one-time thing, so we qualify and we don't have to requalify.
Okay.
Are you sure, Diana? I thought you did have to requalify, but it was many years in between.
I will double check.
Okay.
I did not think there was a requalify, but I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Mrs. Gorman?
Yes, I would also say that if we do not qualify, one of the options is that we look at the selling of loans as a potential mitigation to the capital decreasing, right? So you can, we can continue to originate, but drive it as a non-interest income value instead of interest income.
we'll go back to your question, what happens if we don't get it? It's back to the status quo.
Status quo, but then our capital ratios below 9, the board is aware, we're gonna be talking to them in July about it, so then then we have to decide how we're going to originate so that we're not continuing to lower the capital ratio. We have to look at originations to sell, potentially slowing down, looking at different lines of business, so.
That's just the MBL component.
Well, it impacts indirect, MBL,
That's the same
jumbo,
thing.
any balance sheet.
So outside of commercial, if that capital thing that we ran into
Right.
is impactful?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Exactly. So next question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Diana.
I'll just give you the numbers so everyone has them. The qualifying number is 50.01, and what our combined total was 49.2.
So close.
A couple people move, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
get rid of something indirect.
So, a comment on the ROA slide. I think that right now it looks like we are on target to hit the numbers that you mentioned, but one of the things is there's now some talk about a rate decline, which is not factored in, and actually in plan, we had 2 rate hikes factored into plan. So what's the impact financially if the Fed decides to lower rates, and what will we do to handle that sort of situation?
As of yesterday, the latest rumor was a potential for 3 this year.
Well, let's not talk about that.
I
We're gonna have to get on it like now.
I'm just
Right.
reading.
I only heard the one in the fall.
Right.
Well, actually Bloomberg this morning was talking about 50 total. So
50
probably-
basis points?
Probably 25 to 25. But that was just this morning, I don't know if they were just stressing it, but
Yeah.
that's what they were chattering about this morning, so.
Wow.
So we split.
So I think what
the
you're
difference.
basically saying, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tremendous
Yeah,
amount of
right.
uncertainty.
So I would be prepared for that sort of question.
What other questions did you have?
I'm sorry, you said, so in plan we have 2.
We have 2 hikes in plan, which I think we said is like 400,000 in income per hike. So we've already lost 800,000. Then if it goes down a quarter, figure another 4-ish. Camille would probably have to validate that for us, but.
And I think he, because I was under the same impression each was 4, and then he responded and said combined they were 4.
Oh, well, I'll go with that.
That sounds better,
Much
right?
better, yeah, exactly, because I thought we were at 8.
That's what I thought.
So,
We can circle back. I'm
right,
sure.
yeah, but we need to figure out how much it would be if there are those, if rate cuts, then it will impact.
And is Radden presenting prior to? the-
Yes,
Have you shared the Radden data that you all shared with me on Friday from Performance Analytics? You may want to have Don post it out there. I would forewarn everyone, it is not a pretty picture. So you may want to read that and then dovetail some of what the board is going to hear into your comments and your presentation, because if not, they're probably going to specifically ask how what you're talking about is going to change our performance. The only area that we, if you want to say was positive, was our loan to share was high. Every other metric that they measure against peers, and even some of our own data, was way off the chart on the low side. So they hit a couple areas for good opportunity. One was mortgage, one was home equity products because of the income, but every other area from a income perspective, cross-sell perspective, checking perspective, non-interest income, margin, anything you can imagine, we were well under peer, and were in some cases only in the first or second percentile. So after they hear that, those of you that were around last year when you heard comments after they saw the RADN data from the employee survey and the member survey, parlay that now on top of the financial performance, I would expect that they're going to ask a lot of questions. Some of it we just got, and I know reading it this week, and I have some questions for Helen. Some of the data doesn't make sense, but even if you factor that out, there's enough in there to be concerned about. So I would expect that they're going to ask a lot of questions.
Is this financial information?
This is our performance that they get out of our core compared to, and the call report, compared to other credit unions nationwide, both within their survey and outside of their survey, or the performance analytics.
What was the performance date? What was the?
It was
date
year-end
from?
data.
Okay, year-end 2018.
So there was a lot of changes made at the end of last year. Is there?
But our lending, even on the deposit side, it just is not pretty. So you can, Yvonne can have Donna share it and everybody can read it. I would really look at, I think they're going to focus when they present on the opportunities assessment. So that's the one that I would really dig in if I were you. And then there's another report that gives you an idea of credit unions nationwide and their asset sizes, those in our peer group. So some of that's interesting because there's other institutions locally that participate, and then much larger than us.
And this is what Helen's presenting on Thursday to us?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
At a high level, and then she can't be at strategic planning, so her counterpart's going to present.
Okay.
And then there's a larger deck that actually is a good deck because it'll back up the opportunities assessment. It gives you more clarification. And then we also have the entire data input file. If someone wants to dig into that.
429 pages.
Yeah, have fun, right?
There's a couple of things in there I think that are in question, but I think debit card transactions and credit card transactions per card seem very, very low in their data. So I have that for Helen to take a look at, or us to take a look at. But it really validates what we've been talking about, but now that when you see it in black and white, it doesn't make it look any prettier, right?
Oh, that's the computer. Okay, so, Fred, I would be careful with some of the specific fees, that the board doesn't, that you don't go too deep with them, and that the board doesn't then start going into, well, why is this fee this, why did you do that? So you can invite them in and it can go really deep, so.
Do you want me to?
I would specifically for sure take out the easy pay comments about increasing NII through driving easy pay age lower, because we don't think that will be material impact anyway. We don't have a lot of young people using the checking account, so that's more like a improvement for their experience than it is to drive NII. But I think talking about some of the fees got a little bit weedy at the
Okay,
end.
so really, I'll focus on that we're reviewing that we're reviewing all fees. Do you want me to touch base like on the foreign ATM? No?
No, they
Just say
already
fees
know.
are consistently
Yeah.
under review? Okay.
Right.
I
So
can do
looking
that.
for optimization, that type thing.
Got it.
All right.
In the opportunities assessment, it hits our performance relative to if we would just move up a tad. And it'll show you the income that we can realize. So I would concentrate on the ones that have a larger impact to income when you're looking through that. So, and it was all about generating revenue and income. And we do very well on Gen X's,
Okay.
but other than that.
All right, we ready for cultural transformation? One pillar down, 3 to go.
I thought you'd be halfway done already.
25%.
Okay, so the second pillar we're gonna discuss today is cultural transformation. And basically that's building a dynamic and flexible environment that embodies our values and inspires pride, thereby becoming an employer of choice. Basically, we're trying to maximize employee engagement. The pillar consists of 4 tactics. Oh, wait, I have to press space bar. No. Oh. Is it going to sleep? Oh. Okay. This pillar consists of 4 tactics: improve communication with employees, develop a cultural shift in the delivery of GLCU's organizational development programs, redefine a compensation and benefit strategy, and build internal brand. Most of the targets associated with this pillar are tied to our employee engagement survey scores, which include increase employee participation rate in the survey, shift the percentage of team members from content to cheerleaders, and improve overall employee satisfaction. While we will not know these results until after our employee engagement survey, scheduled for later this year, we have received many positive comments and feedback to the action items so far. So let's get started with Jody presenting our first tactic of improving communications. Jody.
Thanks so much. The employee engagement feedback from Radin survey stressed the importance of improved communication and transparency. Our goal has been to over-communicate to our employee owners. Under this action item, we have a number of wins. We have updated and published our employee guidelines. The employee benefits were separated out into highlights. Round-based lunches with the CEO have launched, where employee owners have the opportunity to talk and share thoughts with Steve over lunch. Steve has also extended communication opportunities to department meetings as well. Passageways has been revitalized with marketing infusing our internal brand. Employees receive an email notification when new items are posted to Passageways, which include videos from Steve communicating with product buses and strategic measurements. Camille also records financial presentations for employees to remain up to date. We also launched a new exit interview process for better understanding of why employees leave and opportunities for improvement. Lastly, we are preparing to hold an internal team building workshop, hackathon, pairing up different areas to develop out-of-the-box ideas. Overall, metrics are tied to the Radin survey, so we are looking at other options to check the pulse of our employee owners throughout the year.
So our next action item for our strategic pillar is really the change in cultural shift for our organizational development department. Previously, and our current status was that the organizational development team really relied on third-party vendors to provide
1-hour WebEx trainings for most of the needs. The problem with that is that the training was one and done. There was very little follow-up. There was no call to action. And really there wasn't any driven performance that was derived from these trainings. Unfortunately, WebEx is never going to be very efficient in delivering content when we're talking about soft skills and developing actions that we really need to drive our performance. So from our progress and what we're really focusing on today is looking at some foundational work and starting back from square one and identifying really what is needed from our organization to drive that organizational performance forward. So we have been able to complete a needs assessment. My team has worked with all of the leaders, sitting down and talking about what are their needs, their business needs, as well as their organizational development needs. And from that, we were able to put together a training track curriculum. We identified over 21 courses that are really critical to the success of the organization, focusing on those soft skills, focusing on those needs of the business to help drive forward. We've also been able to redesign our orientation process. Previously, our orientation was over 5 days long, and it actually focused on history and a introduction to GLCU, but unfortunately was providing too much information to our new hires and wasn't setting them up for success. And so what we really want to do is we wanted to look at what do our new hires need to be successful, when do we give it to them, and in what time frame. And so we reorganized our orientation. It is now currently 5 days, but those 5 days now include 3 days of technical training to help our people become more successful when they reach their department and branches. We've also been working on a follow-up orientation. So now that we know about the training, the timing of delivering content when our employees need it in order to set them up for success, the goal is to bring them back after they've had time to learn the job, become familiar with the job, and then really get that reinforced training that they need when they need it. And so we are looking at bringing back our new hires within the first 30 days. And during that first 30 days, we'll give them a more concentrated training and development at that time. We've also have been looking and will implement a new hire survey so that we are making sure that we're providing those new hires exactly what they need and when and setting them up for success. So we will be starting a survey that go out to our employees within a certain time frame from their hire date. We'll also reach out to the managers to make sure that there's a consistent approach, a consistent message, and that we're viewing performance consistently. And if there is needs that are identified at that time, we can then develop a program to provide them everything that they do need. Now with the roadblocks within our organizational development program, as I mentioned, there's 21 core courses that we identified. And 21 core courses is something that will take time to develop and time to for us to become familiar with as well as to purchase. And so over the next 2 to 3 years, next 2 to 3 years, we will consistently be looking at developing our own content as well as purchasing content to fill those 21 needs. But we do have a number of wins so far. For example, we've already introduced a performance management piece with all of our managers have gone through. So we have a consistent approach to look at performance, to look at how to correct performance, how to address performance issues, and how to develop performance. We've also been able to create and implement a time management, which is actually going out and being available to all of our employees starting this month. We are very close to finalizing our first communication training. Again, one of those 21 courses that we've identified as a need. So our goal over the next year is to develop 2 more of the 21 needed courses. And then we will, as I said, develop 3 to 5 courses over the next 2 to 3 years. Our next action item is our compensation and benefits strategy. So compensation and benefits is critical for us to be an employer of choice and to attract and retain top talent. Currently, our compensation strategy is not aligned to the market and really isn't focused on internal equity. Also, for our benefits benefit strategy, there's no clear plan. Premiums are exactly the same for the two different medical benefit options that we do have. And we lack a clear plan for our Wisconsin employees. Open enrollment last year was held mid-December with very few days for our employees to have the options to evaluate both of our offerings and make their choices. So as we make the changes and we look at our focus, starting and focusing on our compensation first and foremost, we were able to complete, again, foundational work. It's really starting with the basics and building up. So we had initiated a job leveling initiative. We met with all of the leaders in the organization. We looked at every single job in the organization, and we were identifying what level those jobs are consistent in. This helps us align compensation, it helps us align development, it helps us align benefits. So out of that work, we were able to identify 3 levels of management, 2 levels of professional, and 2 levels of support. So every single job within GLCU falls within one of those 7 levels. We are also able to review every single job description. And we were looking at making sure that we were a consistent approach at reviewing our jobs, that our jobs are aligned to market, and then we looked to the knowledge, skills, and abilities and implemented those and incorporated those within our job descriptions. This made our next objective much easier. We have partnered with a third-party vendor and have market evaluated every single job. The work that we did for our job descriptions is now core to the third-party vendor so that we can evaluate jobs very easily. It's now embedded within our job description, and now we have the market data so that we can establish a compensation strategy that will give us a competitive edge as we look to attract, retain, and develop top talent. Currently, we're reviewing all of that data, and we are looking at a compa ratio system. A compa ratio system is one that aligns people based on where they are within our ranges. So, as we get the information out, we'll be establishing pay ranges for every single job. Then within the pay ranges, we will establish quadrants or quartiles. Those quartiles will then determine where the person is to midpoint. The individuals below midpoint will then have a different compensation strategy than people above midpoint. This will impact the way that we look at bringing talent in from an experience-based compensation system. It will also look at how we evaluate from a market, from a merit increase strategy, as well as a promotional increase strategy. We will make a determination on a strategy whether we want to be a leading compensation strategy or a lagging compensation strategy. And we might have a strategy that actually combines both theories. A leading compensation strategy is one where we set our midpoint for our positions above the market. A lagging compensation strategy is one where we set the midpoint below the market strategy. The reason why we would incorporate this is because we also want to take a look at what is our variable compensation strategy altogether. So more information will come as we finalize our opportunities. From a benefit strategy, as we look at our benefits and ensure that we're providing the absolute best benefits we can to our team members, it became very clear that we really weren't clear what is important to our employees. So we did launch a full GLCU survey to ask employees what is important to them for their benefits. That data will help us drive as we make our determinations and set our strategies for this year. We're also looking at other brokers to make sure we're doing our due diligence and that we have the best possible partners to help us put together these compensation strategies. We've committed that our open enrollment will be the first 2 weeks in November. Not only will it be the first 2 weeks in November, we will also have a Benefest opportunity. A Benefest is where we will have our third-party vendors come in to be able to speak to all of our employees and talk about benefits, answer questions, and help them make decisions that are most critical to them. For our compensation, for our roadblocks, as I said, from our compensation, we are looking at a market strategy. And as we look at a market strategy and we set a market strategy, it becomes very careful to make sure that we are simply not paying more money for the same performance, for the same goals, for the same talent. So as our strategy builds, our expectations, our performance, and our goals for our employees also must rise. So the roadblock is to make sure that we are implementing it at the same time and putting out both the goals and expectations at the same time we're looking at changing compensation. Roadblocks from a benefit strategy are first and foremost is that we have a very tenured team. Over 30% of our employees have been with GLCU for 10 years or longer. While that's a real benefit from a cultural standpoint and a knowledge standpoint, it actually works against us from a benefit standpoint. Employees don't realize the benefit package that we have and the quality of the benefits that we have. We have some of the leading benefits in our market, in our industry. Yet it isn't noticed from our employees because benefit costs have risen, which means the cost to them has risen as well over the years. So instead of seeing how competitive those benefits are from an industry standpoint, what they're noticing is their costs are rising. So one of our challenges is to help educate our employees how good our benefits are and that they are leading our industry. Finally, our final roadblock from our benefit standpoint is that we currently have an HSA program where the HSA program is actually costing GLCU more money than our HMO. And this is a strategy that we'll have to look at and evaluate to make a determination. Finally, our wins. We have just been able to implement a new PTO policy, which is a win for our employees as well as a win for GLCU, as it eliminates the need to carry over liability year over year, and it also allows the employees one bucket of time that they can use and they can manage throughout the year, and gives them the opportunity to continue to use it and as well carry over up to 80 hours into the next year.
So the final pillar under cultural transformation is to build our internal brand. And many of the initiatives under building our internal brand are foundational action items, which we intend to continue to develop and grow to reinforce GLCU as an employer of choice, attracting, developing, and retaining top talent. As an extension of our external brand theme for 2019, which was Great Moments with Great Lakes Credit Union, we've incorporated the word great into the employee programs implemented this year. The new employee recognition program, Great Job, encourages the recognition of employees for exceptional internal and external member service. As most of you witnessed at the Employee Appreciation Dinner recently, the 7 annual awards, plus the additional awards that presented by Steve, were warmly received by the employees. We are also selecting 4 winners each quarter. These winners are selected from comments by our fellow employees for doing a great job on passageways. Then we have They Are Great Employee Referral Program. This rewards team members for referring top talent to GLCU for open opportunities. We've had a few since the introduction of this program. Then we have Employer Owners Are Great. This rewards employee owners for referring sales outside their day-to-day area of responsibility, which will reinforce exceptional service culture and encourage team members to be more cheerleaders for GLCU. And then finally we have the Great Moments newsletter, which is delivered quarterly and was developed based on comments and requests received from employee survey last year. It has a message from Steve in it. It has department updates, benefit updates, employee moves, and dates to remember. All these initiatives have been designed to enhance the internal brand and to garner employee buy-in, making them feel like employee owners, and that working together as one team will lead GLCU to success. Are there any questions on this pillar?
I have some. Let's see. Michael, on organizational development, you talked about how we are going to reinforce the culture with new hires. How will we be building that brand or that culture within the organization for current employees, especially some of the longevity issues that you talked about, where they don't recognize the value that the organization is providing?
So there is, that actually spans over more than just one of our action items, because really, our longer-term employees understand the culture, and it's not necessarily a training and development standpoint. The area that our employees don't really understand is more of where our benefits lie compared to our competitors or other employers out in the marketplace. Part of our open enrollment this year will be an education series. So not only are we going to help educate our employees on benefits, what benefit choices we have and why it would be beneficial for them, one versus the other, but it's also about the costs. Helping educate how much of the cost GLC is paying for, how much they're paying for, how much is standard for industry, how much would other employers typically would cover. So it's really helping them, educate them on more of what is typical in the industry.
Are you done with that comment?
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about seasoned employees understanding our culture. But then if we go back and look at last year's survey, right, and looked at how many of our employees are disenfranchised with us, one could question their commitment or their real understanding of the culture. They may understand what they understand, but is that really what we want them to understand? So is that necessarily good?
So my opinion of the situation is that GLCU, we're going through a culture change. And the goal for me as the Vice President of HR and Organizational Development is to take the history and that culture of the history and what makes Great Lakes Credit Union great and unique, and preserve that while still driving change, and the change in the culture and why we need to change as an organization to make it better for our members as well as for us. So it's blending new and old. It's blending the history of Great Lakes as well as the change in where we're headed from an efficient, profitable, I don't want to say profitable, an efficient and effective organization, and why we're making that change. Part of the need as we go forward, if we see through the Radin survey that we're still struggling in this area, would be to launch a change management program, a change management initiative to help employees understand change, what the need of change is, and help them through a change process. That answers your question.
So I hear what I hear from Radin. Now I see what I see from the data from performance analytics. So I would question as a board member the commitment, the engagement of employees, or as you had said a couple times, that seasoned employees, that's good in a way, right? But also there's challenges.
Correct.
But I think for the board, we need to be very careful on the way that we position that, because then they're potentially going to come back with, look at the member survey, look at the employee survey, look at now performance analytics. How can we say that those that have been here or those that are here a long time understand the culture, understand what we're doing or what we want to do? So I would just tread lightly on how you position that. Along with that, you used the word roadblocks a few times. The first time that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I see how then you better defined it in a future comment when you were talking about benefits, because it came up under the training section.
Right.
But I just wonder if we may want to look at changing that word out.
Sure.
Because to me, that's more of a...
So that was one of the stated goals. So we had 4 stated goals that we said we were gonna cover. What is it that we're doing to make progress? Are we on target? Are there any wins? And is there anything holding us back? Any roadblocks that are in our way?
Right.
So those were so you may hear that multiple times, because those were the things we wanted to be very transparent. So if we're not making it, if there's something that, like, you didn't get to hear Chris's, but Chris is talking about efficiency and improving processes. And he's saying, you know, we're doing a great job of identifying this. One of our roadblocks is capacity, right? So we have all of these ideas and these opportunities, but we can't program as quickly as we can identify opportunities. So it's a roadblock to getting all of this done immediately. We can call it whatever we'd like, but that is one of the
Or maybe,
staples that they've been
who's gonna
working on.
kick this?
I am.
Okay, so maybe you could describe the 4
Mhm.
things that you're
They
trying.
should get out of each area.
Yeah, that may
absolutely.
help. Then, actually, since you brought that up, on the kickoff, are you gonna talk a little bit about how this was developed from the employee member feedback? But also, we had to consider regulatory items as well as financial items in developing our.
On the tactics.
And then also, maybe a little bit about past, present, future. You know, this takes into consideration where we've been. We had to really research and get the data, and if we really look at it, we really didn't have a lot of this well-defined until fourth quarter. And now we're trying to present the success. That's not a lot of time to get a lot of movement, especially on a lot of these initiatives. And I think if we really dig into performance analytics, it's certainly not enough time to move that needle significantly. So this is setting us up for future success, so maybe some kind of comment tied around, you know, because if you're a board member, you come once a month, right? And you think, oh, I heard a long time ago we were working on all these, a long time ago was October, you know?
Right.
So I think maybe just however you can
Mhm.
do that. Going back to your comments, on the training section, I thought it was good, but then it tended to get maybe a little heavy on detail.
Okay.
So maybe just remember, they're not here every day, so just keep it at a level that a board member would understand or want to understand.
Okay.
I thought your explanations in detail was excellent, probably for us and managers and supervisors, but then maybe somehow just take that.
Bring in less.
Right.
Yep.
So you don't want them to get lost in the minutia.
Right.
And then not to follow through.
In regards to the point of the Radin survey and the analytics that they're just about to hear, would you want me to go down the path if we do get those questions of, that? Remember, that's one point in time. That point in time was pulled last July. Since then, we've already initiated many of these things to kind of focus exactly on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would go down that path.
Okay.
I think you could state that, you know, part of doing research and fact finding, that takes a lot of time. And one can argue all day long why we did or didn't do it in the past, but that's the past. We really need to focus on today and going forward. And Yvonne, she could probably give you the time that we've spent on months and months and months of trying to work on performance analytics. So a lot of this stuff is just not as easy as flipping a switch and having it at your fingertips. So you could preface it by saying, we've really spent, you know, the better part of 8 or 9 months in fact finding, gathering research, member, employee, but also financial information to help us really look at what we're doing, but also understanding the benchmarking against other credit unions nationally that are successful. And I mean, honestly, it just takes time. So I think if you preface it by that, they'll understand that and they'll get that it does take time to
Okay.
evolve. You know, the window of opportunity and our plans to improve probably need to speed up a bit,
Right.
but you could preface it by saying that.
Okay.
So, you talked about the changing people from old way to new way, and I would almost tie that into, Yvonne, what you're talking about, because you're talking about building an internal brand, but we don't really define what it is that we're trying to build. We talk a lot about grade, but we don't talk about what is the brand, what are they trying to feel, what do we want them to be living? So maybe the two of you can tie something together
Yep.
there
Yep.
and define what that brand is
Okay.
and speak to that.
Okay.
And then when you talked about positions, some we may have a leading or a lagging strategy. you may want to, because then the board members say, well, what type of position would be leading, what type of position is
Right.
lagging?
They're
So if
gonna
you-
help.
Yeah,
So if you get into that conversation, you
Okay.
leave it open,
Okay.
you're probably gonna get a question that's saying, well, what do you mean lagging? What do you mean leading?
okay,
And why is one leading and lagging
yeah,
in a high level? We talked about seasoned employees. HSAs, since we haven't really decided what we're doing yet on HSAs, you may wanna just say, I thought your comment was good, how we're reviewing everything. I don't know if I would really go into,
okay,
because really, remember that they don't set benefit strategy.
Right.
Management does, so you could just wrap it into your first comment I thought was
Okay.
great. Wins, the PTO policy, have we had positive comments come back from staff relative to the new PTO? I get
I
it
would
from
say-
a GLCU perspective, but what about in?
it's probably 70% positive, 30% negative, 30% surprising the people with the high sick balances. So, but overall, it is more positive than negative.
So you may just wanna be prepared to
Yeah.
address that, because if they've talked to those employees that aren't happy,
Mhm.
right, then in their
Right.
mind, well, he's telling us
Right.
it's a success,
Right.
that we're hearing. And then, and I may have missed it, were there other items that you listed under wins, or was that?
That's the only one, wins from compensation and benefits, because we're in the middle of it. So until we roll out, it's all in progress.
And
So,
that makes sense. I like your comment about the benefits and longevity and really explaining to folks. I thought that was well placed. I think you might get questions on the compa ratio, and if you talk about, when you started talking about how it could impact their merit increases,
Mhm.
that might be a little deep
Okay,
for,
okay,
because people might start wondering, like, well, what does that mean? You know, are staff going to be negatively impacted? That type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it was good.
and you may want to just, we talked about compies, you might as well just go ahead and answer the question about what does that mean from the survey perspective, what's
Okay.
included in that. Since you're eliminating some other detail, that would be something we know that has already come up, so you might as well just answer that.
Okay.
Because if one's already asking it, you know others are
yeah.
going to ask that as well. When are the board going to ask questions as you go along, or are you gonna tell them to?
We're gonna tell them to wait until the end of each pillar, and we'll tell them when it's okay to ask questions. So after the end of each one, so like Yvonne just finished this one up, she would open it up for questions.
Okay.
I think we need a transition slide in between. It might be just questions or some sort to end the pillar and to start the new.
And then,
I can stick one between.
I would also watch the, comments relative to me,
Okay.
right? So I think I think Jody had it in one of hers, I think maybe Yvonne
Yvonne,
mentioned it.
yeah.
You could just simply say that, we've enhanced communications and they include X, but when you start naming out whether it's a CEO or other staff individually, it can give somebody a different impression.
Okay.
So I think it's one of many things that we've done. It's not that certainly makes a difference. It's just an added item. So I watch singling people out. And then I know Yvonne, you mentioned that there have been some employee referrals that have come through. You may get the question on, well, how many?
And Michael said,
Right, we'll have the number by then.
Okay. And then have we had any of the sales referrals?
So that's only pulled once a month, so it's being pulled now. We're gonna be paying it out this cycle.
So you may need to tweak your comments based on what you see there. And then one thing that came up that I didn't hear addressed is there a formal suggestion program in development? Whereas before employees could, right, suggest things, there was a committee.
So that's
that looked
still
at-
going, the committee's still going, the suggestion's still going. We have not rebranded that, we have not changed that yet, although the committee is meeting differently, but but that's still open.
So you may just want to say something about that,
Yeah.
because again, if they're talking to employees, that may be something that, and then probably a side note is that, that's come up a couple times recently on my
Yeah.
round robin visits.
Okay.
So we may need to re-communicate out
Okay.
what it is we're doing in the short term, just as a side note. And then I think for this section, remember that this is something that regardless of your experience as a board member, that board members tend to get their arms around because it's something that typically everybody feels like they can be an expert in and add value to. And although we appreciate a lot of value from everyone, you may want to be prepared for any type of comments or questions that they're going to throw your way, because this is one area that they'll probably, my guess would be, ask a lot of questions on,
Right.
since we know the way they reacted to the employee viewpoint survey a year ago. And, a question may be, yes, we haven't had our readout yet from RAD because we haven't provided the employee viewpoint survey this year, but what's your sense on the movement to get our employees, maybe not from detractors all the way up to cheerleaders, but moving them into more of that happy ground? Has there been enough time that have went by to really move that or not? And so,
Right.
whomever's presenting, Jody, Yvonne, yourself, right?
Right.
You all may get that, one of you may get it, none of you may get it, but
Right.
I'd just be prepared, what are you
Okay.
gonna say if that question comes up, so. And you
Okay.
probably all wanna be on the same page on how you answer that.
Right.
I thought that the thought was that whoever is the expert in the pillar, which in this case is Michael, we would just defer to Michael, because I
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
like to speak on behalf of HR or whatever.
And yeah, I would definitely field that question and
Yeah.
have strong opinions, so.
Yeah, now, the difference though, both you and Jody are employees that have been here a long time. So, they may then say, well, that's great, Michael, thanks, you're
Right.
working hard, we appreciate it. But, oh, Yvonne and Jody, you both have been here a long time, what's your opinion? So I would just be prepared for any kind of question from
Right.
them.
Okay.
So Steve, what do you think of like the part of the transformation that we've already seen in the call center? Would that be a good example to you?
I mean, that's really you're much closer to that than I am. So I think the openness of employees, at least my own opinion, is I've seen it, from day one, I think employees have always been open with me. But I think what I've seen now is that they've been open, we've tried to communicate our best on what we're trying to do and work on. We may not have all the answers, but I do see that employees are more willing to even suggest things than ever before. And I think, Jody, to your point, the call center is a great example of that. Your list is up to, I don't know now, 60, 65 items that came from them? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that for them to be able, first, they told us a couple things, right? We worked on them, we communicated back. Then all of a sudden, they heard things and they started to see more. So now they're suggesting more. I think it's the same thing that we hear in Branch. I mean, Woodstock today, for meeting with 3 people, I got a list of items that they have questions on. And so I think employees are feeling more comfortable now of wanting to know more, wanting to just clarify and or suggest improvements. And I get it from the departments, I got it from your group before. So regardless of the communication method, I think that people are feeling more comfortable, they want to suggest things, but now they want to see things
Right.
done, or at least communicated back if
Right.
they can't do it. But Jody, I think also from your perspective in the call center, what they've suggested not only improves their role, but it improves the member relationship. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think you could even throw that comment in there, because that's a valid comment. But you know that better than, it seems great to me where I'm sitting, but you know it better because you're sitting
Well, I
there.
think, well, in the call you mentioned too, that, Michael's new, so we don't want him to answer everything. For Yvonne and I to step in, it's really important.
Right, and I think, Jody, from your perspective, they may not all know that in the transition of a call center leader, you've been pretty much working there multiple days a week, multiple hours a week. So again, from a leadership perspective, and to hear those things, I think it shows that we realize there's challenges, which are opportunities, so we're all diving in. And I think any of you can speak about that in your areas, because as leaders, they're gonna wanna know, especially once they see performance analytics, what are you doing as a leader to dive in and help move us forward? I would be prepared though for them to come back, for those of you, probably everybody here except for Michael, it's information that we've had at our fingertips, but we've not done anything about it in the past at GLCU. So what are you gonna do different as a leader to drive different behavior, not only from the employee, but from the member and from the organization? Because everybody in this room and on the phone, except for Michael and myself, has been here. Chris, a little fairly, but everyone else has been here a while. And when you look at the results just didn't happen overnight. So I think I'd be prepared on, if you start getting those questions, what are you gonna answer as a leader on, the past is the past, so focus on the information we just talked about. We did research, we know, regardless of what we thought we know now. What are you gonna do different as a leader to drive different behavior in your area, but as a leader within the organization?
Will Red be coming out to run through these with us before the board meeting?
They're coming,
Thursday, okay, so looking at, just glancing through, I have lots of questions about how things are calculated.
yeah, I would go to the big deck. The big
Okay.
deck explains their definitions.
Okay.
And you can, if it's not out there, you can get it.
No, I already had done.
Yeah, Donna sent
Okay.
a link, and so then I was looking at it, and I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and I
What-
think,
what
one,
the
right, but remember,
process is.
one can argue whatever they wanna argue, but the data is the same when they look at the list of credit unions, they look at the same way, right? That data doesn't lie.
Right.
We need to understand and validate a couple, actually, there's a couple for you that you're gonna have, I'll talk to you, that
Yeah.
you're gonna have to validate. But, when you look at that performance, and then no doubt, our income is the way that it is, right? So us as leaders have got to tell them, what are we gonna be doing differently going forward now that we really know what we know? I would just be prepared. They're asking a lot of questions at board meetings, they're pinging us all as executive leaders on things that are coming up. This is gonna be very near and dear to them as well, especially when we have a really poor ROA from last year, and then, income that was depressed at the end of the year. Now, we've made great progress, and Camille just said, actually, we had another really great month last month. So we're starting to see some of those things change, but, the snapshot in time they're looking at is as of the end of the year. And, the one thing I would say as well, remember, for those of you here, last year when we had the strategic planning, and they were like counting everybody in the room and seeing, okay, how many people are in here cheerleaders? I would not be surprised if somebody, either in the meeting or even one-on-one, came up to you and said, Chris, are you a cheerleader?
Well, they call them male cheerleaders.
Cheerman? Are you a cheerman?
Cheerleader, you're just a cheerleader. It's
Yes.
unisex.
There you go.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised, so I just don't want to catch anybody off guard. Now watch, they'll probably not say a word about it.
Right, yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked.
So
All right.
moving on to the next pillar, exceptional member experience, that's Jeff.
Good afternoon. Thanks for allowing us to provide an overview of exceptional member experience for strategic pillar. Exceptional member experience, what does that mean? It's demonstrating our understanding of member needs and providing them financial solutions when they need them in a caring and convenient manner. Exceptional member experience. The ultimate goal is to enhance member engagement. There are three main tactics under exceptional member experience pillar. Member-centric business model, which Jody will be providing an update. Brand awareness that will drive measurable results. Yvonne will be discussing those initiatives today. And finally, the final tactic will be maximize a seamless experience across all delivery channels, which I will address. After we've collectively covered all three exceptional member experience tactics, we will answer any and all questions. Jody, I'll let you begin.
Thanks, Jeff. Understanding member needs puts the member in the center of all our decisions. The voice of the member provides valuable feedback through member mystery shops and new relationship surveys in between our annual random surveys. Through listening to member feedback, we reopened on Wednesdays and are moving to provide full service lending through all our channels, including our branches. Service Star is a new partner to assist leadership in transforming our culture of both internal and external member service. This 18 to 24-month program will provide a structured platform to reinforce our dedication to member service. Lastly, empowering employee owners allows for more efficient member interactions. Employees have increased privileges on things like reversing fees and processing rate matches. Feedback on these changes has been very positive. Yvonne?
Thank you, Judy. The overall mission to increase brand awareness that will drive measurable results by increasing market presence across all marketing mediums throughout 2019 and beyond. With consistent brand marketing on Comcast TV and radio, GLCU will become more of a household name in the Chicagoland area. Online and direct marketing to non-members will increase overall awareness, and it is measurable. In March, we conducted a checking campaign blasting over 84,000 emails to non-members. It featured thousands of display ads on both online and mobile devices in zip codes within a 3-mile radius of our branches. And we added to this website retargeting to visitors to our website. In March, when we ran the campaign, we saw a 43% increase in the number of checking accounts opened that month, with the average for the rest of the year. If you work it out, the average of never mind that part. Stop video. I will fix that part. I have it in my mind. So we also have the ability to match back new checking accounts with those that received our email. And we saw subsequent ads online. So from the March campaign, and I'm waiting for the number, I won't get it till the week before because they have to have a certain length of time. We had so many non-members and now members that received our checking email. And last year it was a really good number, so I'm really hoping it's the same this year. So we sent out 33,000 postcards for some direct marketing offering FHA and VA mortgage loans. We received 27 inquiries, 7 applications, and 12 are still in process. And Jeff, I'm sure you'll update me with any more numbers. Okay. We also sent out an auto campaign for direct marketing to our members, but unfortunately we had little to no results, showing us that we need to continue with our brand recognition. As one of the old marketing principles says, you need to touch people at least 7 times before they make a decision to act on something. So basically we have to continue to market to non-members on a consistent, ongoing basis. One and done is not enough. You have to show them GLCU and all sorts of different platforms all over the place so that we begin to resonate in their brains. We're also now working with a digital partner to improve visibility online in our coverage areas, as well as continuing with Google advertising, and community involvement is also helping to expand our brand as we have more participation in local chambers. We are continuing our relationship with the Bears Radio Network later in 2019, which will continue to reinforce and increase brand awareness. When members open an account, we ask them why are they opening an account. It's not an exact science, but so far this year, 370 members have stated that they opened an account with GLCU because of radio, television, online searches, our website. They saw our ads both online and in print. They follow us on social media, and they saw us in the community and at business development events. So we're certainly making inroads into the Chicagoland area. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And the last tactic is maximize a seamless experience across all delivery channels. So what are we doing? So back in February, we began and we assigned MLOs from the residential loan department to each of the branches. So they had a designated loan officer to contact. In March, April, we conducted lending seminars for all the branch managers and the FSAs on all lending products. Also in March, we began bouncing call center calls to the branches to reduce hold times. And then later at the end of March and the beginning of April, consumer lending products were being offered at the branches by the staff face-to-face, which is something we haven't done in years. On a continuous basis, all staff is being educated on GLCU products that are being offered both old and new. In addition, peer-to-peer education process was initiated throughout the branches as well as just in every area, so each of us understands what products we offer and quizzing each other to make sure that our peers understand those products. Marketing has increased the communication of our products to the members, as Yvonne was just discussing. All of these initiatives collectively presented by Jody, Yvonne, and myself are impacting the member experience. From a results-oriented perspective, where are we at? Well, if you look at our smart sheet, we're at about 60%. However, this pillar is never ending. We can add, eliminate, tweak, and continue to do better all the time. The results are measured by member feedback, and this will only be known with the next RADN survey. Yet, how can we be sure a positive change is occurring if one only measures ourselves annually? Well, today, each month, and actually daily, GLCU surveys members through a company called EXP. EXP mirrors RADN, and based on past results, our active members have shown a positive increase. From 2018 to year to date, there's been an 11.9% increase in net referral scores, which is similar to the Net Promoter Score. It's based on 4 categories: product, channel, processing, and people. 2 of the categories, product and channel, which we're very concerned about in this pillar, returned increases of 16% and 86% respectively. Don't get lost in the statistics. Until RADN's surveys are tallied, we really don't know. Yet, based on 1,500 monthly EXP surveys asking similar questions to both new members and, more importantly, active members adding new products, it appears changes are occurring. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions now.
All right, so I have a question. I think it was for Jody. So Jody, you talked about Service Star, but I'm not exactly sure that the board knows much about Service Star. We kind of glossed over it. So how is that going to make us more member-centric? What does that look like? What's the impact?
Well, and that's where maybe Michael can refresh my memory. I tried to listen really close because I didn't, when I looked at what Michael had said about it, he went into quite a bit of detail, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more glad to take that questions when it comes to Service Star. So Service Star is.
Because that's why I didn't go into a huge amount of detail, because Michael went into more detail. I could reference, should I reference that? Like as Michael, shared earlier, we're partnering with them.
I didn't
didn't
really
talk
touch
about
Service
it.
Star, because I
No.
left Service Star for that pillar.
Service Star is
Yeah,
more.
he didn't mention Service Star, Jody, that's why I'm bringing it
Yeah.
up.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. You know what? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. Okay, I can go into more detail on that then.
Don't we just want to let
Do
the
you want me to
board,
go into more detail, or do you want me to be prepared for questions?
Yeah, if you wanna, if you were to get that question today, how would you answer it?
Okay. I would talk about how Service Star is partnering with us to, look at front office and support areas to make sure that we're better integrated as a service culture throughout the entire credit union. They'll be working with us on our leadership skills, driving sales and service throughout the credit union.
Maybe what would help is to take the summary sheet from them that they presented as an overview, Jody, and then use that to formulate your comments.
Okay,
Can you, and Michael has it, it's the one that they kind of presented at the board meeting.
That was, Yvonne, you mentioned we started retargeting. I'm not sure if everyone will know what retargeting is, so you might wanna share what that means and if you have results on what we've seen from retargeting, to be prepared with that, so, great.
That's what I'm hoping to have,
We'll
some
have
sort
that.
of results, because that's the whole campaign that we did in March, included retargeting. So, they're going to be sharing that information. I told them I need it before strategic plan is going to include results.
Okay.
And then, when we kicked it off, you mentioned that brand awareness will drive measurements, or there's measurements that we'll see our success on. So, somewhere along the lines, what are some of those measurements gonna be that we look at from brand awareness? I would take those out of, whoever wants to touch on that, right out of performance analytics. So things like increasing our share of wallet on deposits, share of wallet on loans, cross-selling, and then new households having additional products and services other than just the one they're opening. And that's very clear on the high-level slides they provide, and I think it's good now that we have that. We didn't include it before because we didn't have it, so now we have it. Because that's gonna be hot on their mind, since they just heard that, and know that we have a huge opportunity to bring core deposits, not certificates, core deposits over, and loans of all types, so somebody might as well
Do you want
mention.
Jeff to put that in the beginning when he's?
However you all wanna
introduces?
work on that.
look at the data, and if you want, you touch on things, I'll have stuff at the end. If you don't hit them, I'll add it to my follow-up.
And somebody mentioned full-service lending. Who, Jody, was that you?
Jeff?
Jeff, full service?
no, I did. Oh,
Did you?
I people did.
Okay. You may just want to clarify what full-service lending means, because somebody could say, well, I thought we have centralized underwriting, and so I think we need to be clear on what we're saying lending is doing.
Maybe we should say, just continue to talk about the expansion of lending and retail, and keep it there.
Okay. I can say I'm learning on
I
that.
mean, whatever you guys think. I think full-service lending could mean.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be anything. Right.
And then member outreach. I don't know if it was Yvonne or somebody talked a little bit about Yvonne. So I think we need to kind of clarify a little bit on, how are we reaching out to our members? Are we letters, calls? And one thing I think that probably will come up is is our strategy on when we say we're going after members or non-members, how are we picking who we're sending? I mean, are we doing mass mailing or mass emailing, or are we utilizing any intelligence on who we're targeting and why?
So yes, I mean, I can only
All
get
of the
specific, I
above.
can only get specific, I mean, I'll answer it and tell me if this is what you're looking for, or you think they may not. I can only be specific on the FHA and VA campaign, and we strategically looked at all 11 branches, and we looked at the demographics, we were looking for age, and we were looking for people that did not own a home, and they were within a 3-mile radius of those branches, hoping that the community name, the branch name, and all that would be brought in. That's the non-members we went after for FHA and VA. I mean, Yvonne, I can talk to it, I mean, I'm sure that's similar to what we do on other marketing.
Yeah, so I think I would be careful, I think that's a great example. And I think I would preface that by saying what we used to do, and this is an evolution. We went from what we did,
To be more targeted.
now we're more targeted and segmented. However, what's the next? So we have to morph, we have to grow, right? So then it's presenting the product or service to the individual member based on when they need it, based on what? Using artificial intelligence, right? So kind of how over time, marketing's morphing, right? So we're in that evolution. And I think your example is a great example to show how we're targeting now and segmenting, but it's gonna become more important to be more behavior-based, based on member, and presenting it when they need it versus the old marketing of the past where it's credit card day or it's auto loan day, although there's still seasonality in products. On the mortgage side, mortgages are being done throughout the entire year. Yes, there's seasonality to it, but people buy all the time. How do we present our product in front of them when they need it? That's kind of that evolution. So we may want to talk, as we're utilizing data, technology, we're moving along that path. So, however you want.
But, I mean, I can obviously do all the mortgage stuff, I just don't wanna make it all.
Well, and you guys can.
No, I understand, I mean, I can. there's no
The
big-
other, EXP, who mentioned EXP? Okay.
Is it EXP or EPX?
EXP.
EXP. I'm not so sure, I know you have a lot of questions on EXP.
I do.
Erica.
Yep.
And I do as well, so I'm not, I think in theory it may tell us something, but Jody, based on what you just sent out, I think is what you questioned, and then I have a list for you as well, Jody. I think we need to be careful on what we really start quoting off of EXP. So, however you want to.
Well, the concept behind it is you have to have something to measure, and the organization cannot wait every August for RAD to send us some results. The questions and the responses that we're receiving through EXP, which they're done daily and there's 1,500 a month, are very close and mirror some of the exact same questions that are being asked by RAD on an annualized basis. Are they the same? No, but you have to have something. Is it an apple and an orange? I don't know if it's an apple and orange, but it might be a red apple and a green apple. And the reality of this is that the only way for us to see if we're doing better is surveys that are coming in at a flow basis each and every month. And the nice thing about that is that we're not getting leaps and bounds, but we're moving in a positive response.
Yeah, and I think that general comment, I think is fine.
Right.
Where you started going into percentages, and I'm not sure they're gonna follow what that means.
On our website, on our landing page, and in fact, we have it on our loan page, our Visa page, our checking page, we have these reviews from Support EXP that the board members could see at any time, or whatever.
I take out the percentages.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Then, when we're talking about, things just generally about measurements, but, especially as it related to this section, member feedback, which is what you just touched on, which is great. But we also want to ensure the board that we're taking into consideration our financial performance based on what we're doing with members. And then also, and we see that daily, we have that daily, right, because we're getting in financial performance daily. And then also, near and dear to the board, and I think to all of us, is the peer-to-peer data, or Callahan, or how do we stack up, whether it's Radden or it's Callahan, but how do we compare to other similar credit unions? So a great example of that is what they're gonna review right before this is performance analytics. So kind of the comment of the summary, you know, we're looking at member feedback, we're looking at financial performance, we're looking at performance analytics, we're using all these tools and resources to help us develop and improve our performance over time. So maybe just put that one in. And then, Jody, you mentioned bouncing calls to branches.
I did.
Jeff did.
Oh, you did? Sorry. Did that come from Jody? Where did that come
Well,
from?
it came from,
Because I thought there was a problem with that, we weren't really doing that, is what I think I was told over the last couple of weeks, that wasn't happening. Is that happening?
At the, when Jeff is referring to it, yes, we were doing that.
in March.
So
Are we doing it now?
we are reaching out depending on what the need is. So yeah, they're still reaching out. I saw an email that they reached out this morning.
So it's not an overflow setup, it's, hey, can you go into the queue, we need help type thing?
Correct.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they have a sort of like a escalation process where, okay, is everybody in the call center on, okay, how's it escalating? Okay, now we're reaching out to the branches.
Maybe, yeah, it sounds a little loosey-goosey. What I may suggest is that whoever was gonna comment on that is to say, I think where you were heading is that we're working with the vendor for overflow. I think that sounds better than.
We put out a bat signal.
We call you have 3 people in the branch, can you answer the phone?
So to stay out of, and obviously Jody can answer better than I can on this, but to stay out of the weeds on this, I mean, in this group that we're working on this, I mean, we all know that LSI is under contract and that's where this is really going, but I didn't think that would be a great idea to bring that up.
They know. So I would just say that we're working towards our implementation with LSI for outsourcing call volume.
Okay.
And you could say, and other things like having other employees help or something, but I'm not sure bouncing calls to retail to me is.
In the interim, we have, yeah.
On community involvement, Yvonne, did you talk about that?
Just a smidge.
Okay, so I would just, I think chambers is good, but we have a lot of folks, leaders that are involved in local nonprofits, which I think is good to kind of mention, and how you've expanded that presence this year. And then our volunteering effort, the New Wave. The Blue Wave?
Blue Wave, yeah.
The New Wave.
The new blue.
I think is worth mentioning as well. And
Do you want me to mention the number of hours so far for the year to date, at
You
the end of
could.
May?
You could. And the other thing is really having them know that that's a strategy, because we know over time that if we focus on getting the brand out there, being involved in the community, that'll resonate with folks over time, but it's not where you can just all of a sudden 1 year go out and think you're involved in the community and you're gonna get referrals and leads. It takes years to develop those relationships, you know, and banks, you know, have been out there in chambers for years, and now all of a sudden we're there, we're seeing positive comments, but to get actual results, it's gonna take a while. But I would hit on that, because I'm personally a firm believer that that community involvement, I know will pay off. It just takes.
That probably ties back into your brand comments from earlier, about what's the brand that we're building for the organization internally.
In actual fact, with the write-up of the Blue Wave program, we can use some of my write-up for that, to show what our internal brand is supposed to be, or going to.
Well, let's partner on that, just to make sure it's consistent with the direction.
Well, you can manage
Direction. Well, let's just partner, so.
Diana, are you up next?
I am. So for the final pillar, efficiency and sustainability, the goal is to create a strong foundation on which GLCU can build upon. Steps to prepare us for the future that will help us develop an infrastructure that is more transparent and resilient to environmental changes. Initiatives to move us in that direction include developing a strong enterprise risk management program, updating our business continuity plan, and ensuring that we have a stable liquidity plan to support our initiatives. To start us off, Fred Campabassa will be presenting the tactics for updating our disaster recovery business continuity plan.
Thank you, Diana, and thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly. So to start us off, our first tactic is going to be related to updating disaster recovery on our BCP. So the first piece of this puzzle is updating the incident response plan for business continuity. The incident response plan is the master document as it relates to disaster recovery and BCP. We are going to revise this document, and the revision will be completed in the fourth quarter. The master document contains all the supporting documentation for disaster recovery business continuity, such as evacuation routes, communication plans, disaster-specific checklists, and what we're really focused on here, if you didn't understand it already, is a disaster or pandemic type scenario. What we've done to date, we recently held a fire drill at Bannockburn. We have a fire drill scheduled for North Chicago. So those are things that we've done to date. Additionally, we want to talk about performing business impact analysis. And as our delivery channels and product set, they're constantly evolving, it's critical that these documents are nimble and flexible enough where we can plan quickly and make those changes. Most importantly, having a strong disaster recovery business continuity strategy is a key component of every enterprise risk management plan. Having these plans in place ensure that there is minimal disruption to the staff and the membership in the event of a disaster scenario. And for our next slide, Jeff.
Thanks, Rick. Maintaining adequate liquidity. As we're all aware, maintaining adequate liquidity is vital to GLCU's growth initiatives and sustainability plan. Today, our collateral is plentiful, providing the ability to obtain significant lines of credit for short and long-term borrowing by leveraging our funds. GLCU's primary collateral sources have essentially been the investment portfolio and the loan portfolio. Yet over time, both products, loan and the loan portfolio and the loan products have changed. And the need to revise how and where our collateral is and was pledged was necessary. So over the last few months, the finance team has worked with our financial partners to essentially realign our collateral, coupled with adding the member business loan portfolio. We are able to increase our lines of credit. Now that the collateral shift has been completed, both the liquidity plan and the liquidity contingency plan both need to be updated. These plans will need to reflect how we draw down the lines, fund strategic decisions, as well as have in place an emergency plan if needed. Another initiative which would positively impact liquidity is a secondary capital plan based on obtaining low income designation, or LID, from the NCUA. With the Northside merger, we expect to qualify for LID, providing us the opportunity to grow our capital. Such a plan would enhance our liquid funds and could be used for operational opportunities. The final piece would be the opportunistic plan, which would be the evaluation of loan participation sales. Adding this piece to our overall liquidity approach establishes another source of accessible funds if needed. We've already begun evaluating best practices, in addition to attending some training sessions within the loan participation sales area. Next strategic is design and define ERM model, and that goes back to Diana.
Thanks, Jeff. Designing and defining an enterprise risk management model is comprised of two main things: developing a plan to incorporate risk awareness throughout the organization, and redefining our risk management department structure to support those efforts. GLCU in the past was had very siloed functionality throughout the organization. The structure allowed for disjointed decision-making, repetition of duties, and inefficiencies. For example, the legal, compliance, and audit functions were separated and missing opportunities to work smarter. We've combined these areas into a newly defined enterprise risk management department. This structural change is allowing for better use of resources and changes the department focus to be more strategically aligned with GLCU's growth objectives. As GLCU grows, we need to continue to be more strategic and performance-driven. To accomplish this, it is important to know the key risks and associated outcomes of every decision or strategy we embark upon. By dissecting each function, we learn more about how we are doing as a business on a micro level and the organizational level, which will help us to make better decisions. To be successful, we need to reframe our point of view, balancing risk with opportunity, vetting processes to include operational capacity and life cycle impact. Successful growth needs to start with defining our risk appetite and embracing a more collaborative environment. ERM is not a department, but a culture shift, a journey to build a framework where initiatives are developed into sound and strategic successes. At the beginning of the year, we started the process of revamping risk management by evaluating all the current functions within the three departments: audit, legal, and compliance. An initial assessment was completed that evaluated the duties and functions of the department, and a reorganization recommendation was completed. Within this recommendation, a new discipline within the department called risk and governance was created. This new position, using an existing FTE, will oversee many of the new ERM functions, including an enhanced vendor management system, policy reviews, and business continuity. Job descriptions and a revised department organizational chart have been completed. With the exit of some seasoned employees, we are now rebuilding the department and have added 2 new employees to the team. Training new staff and addressing potential knowledge gaps related to the departure of some of our seasoned managers are a department priority. Efforts to change the focus of the department are underway. Staff are very task-oriented, and we are working on changing their perspective to be more collaborative, to work with others to find solutions and make processes better. As staff uncover issues, we are moving away from an identify, report, and fix process to a more root cause analysis where we can assist the business area fix the root cause and not just the symptoms. This change in focus provides more value to the organization and helps GLC become more efficient and purposeful. Overall, we have completed the groundwork to start implementing an enterprise risk management model, which leads me to our final tactic. The next tactic is implementing an organizational-wide ERM model. Establishing an enterprise risk management process is all about identifying, measuring, and managing risk and seizing opportunities that will achieve GLCU's goals. ERM should improve our organizational decision-making through unobstructed information, yielding to better performance. It should also help with improving communications and transparency, improving our agility to respond to change, and better align ourselves to our strategic direction. To assist us with organizing and reporting all the risk components, we have started rolling out Logic Manager, which is a risk management software comprised of 9 fully integrated modules designed to improve business performance and provide for better decision-making. The process of refreshing our existing procedures and functions and to start to warehouse these into a central repository will make GLCU more organized and provide better opportunities to report data accurately than when the data is spread throughout the organization. Improvements to accountability should be a byproduct of this exercise. Keeping processes and procedures current should also be easier, with the ability to schedule reminders and using follow-up features. We plan to use Logic Manager to house our vendor management and contracts, member complaints, incident logs, audit findings and tracking, policy management, and business continuity. Collecting data for the ERM framework will require us to better define how we want to move forward as an organization, how we want to define our risk appetite, how we conduct our due diligence on projects. This includes defining our core processes, completing risk assessments, and setting risk tolerances. Many times, going through these types of exercises will uncover things that have not normally gotten a lot of scrutiny. Ideally, the process will open the dialogue for reconsidering processes in a manner that is beneficial to all areas of the credit union. We have migrated the vendor management records and contract details from an old in-house system onto Logic Manager. We are finalizing all the automation tools that will allow for a seamless process for onboarding and ongoing monitoring of all of our vendor relationships. We are also utilizing Logic Manager to monitor our member complaint process, as well as centralizing our incident tracking and reporting process so that we have one location to track member and branch incidents, as well as system and process incidents. Our implementation plan also includes centralizing the board level reporting on all incidents. Later this year, we will start building out the risk assessments for each department and function. Setting up a system to capture all the ERM data is tedious work, but the real work begins when we start to collect data from the various areas of the credit union and start analyzing and identifying areas of opportunity. When the ERM team can be involved on the front end of a project or product development, we hope to bring value to the process by determining how to navigate risk with a beneficial outcome. This concludes our presentation for the pillar efficiency and sustainability. If you have any questions on business continuity, liquidity management, or enterprise risk management, we would be happy to address those now.
Fred, you mentioned the fire drill at, that we just had a fire drill. Why is that important?
That's important for employee safety, and it's also, and I'm going to break away from this for a minute, I believe it's also compulsory for the locale.
It's the first one we've ever done at this location.
Is it not, Diana, are the fire drills not compulsory for an organization of our side in Bannockburn? Are we required to have those?
I know of them annually, but this is the first one we've had at this building.
So it is required from the municipality?
I don't know, but I would, if you just say we had a fire drill, that sounds highly unimpressive. So if you say, we had our first ever fire drill and here's the steps we had to take, like, that makes more sense on why you're talking to the board about it. You tell them, we had a fire drill, and they're like, woo!
Tornado duck and cover.
I said we recently had a.
Yes, exactly, but
So.
context around that.
Yeah, so at risk of, here's my question. I had that in my notes. Do we want to go there?
Well, Diana, this was really the only win that you said that we had in that tactic, correct, when we talked last time?
But is
So-
that a win?
Well, it's
Is it
moving.
because we discovered all the things we were doing wrong, making everyone funnel outside the front door, they should be exiting the nearest door, so
Yeah.
we didn't know that until we got on with it.
So I guess my question is,
Don't
we've
talk
we've
about
talked
that.
about on NII and on Michael's piece, and
Bringing it up.
about going into the weeds and bringing it up.
It's insignificant to our performance.
Right.
True. So we'll strike it.
So, yeah.
We'll strike it.
Okay, good deal. And then,
Actually, I think that's a good comment, right? As you're reviewing your final comments as you get ready for the end of the month, if something is insignificant to our performance, I would not include it. I would strictly include things that are significant, high-level board things that they'll want to know about.
Right.
Not to divert here a little bit, but I'm not sure I even have any idea what the incident response and business continuity existing plan is.
I think it talks about the end of the world.
But
I'm not
do we
certain
have-
that
do
we have a
offsite
usable-
servers, for example, that?
Hotspots,
Yeah.
we got
So
laptops,
the-
I don't think we have hotspots.
No, we have offsite for the core, but I think that's all that we've run any sort of DR on. We also have offsite for the Fed, which is at Round Lake, but we haven't tested it in I don't know how many years in terms of there actually being a holistic DR response to something. Chris can probably talk more about the technology side. There's definitely nothing from the business side. So we don't know,
So, I mean, if the
like when
senior
stuff
manager
goes
got
wrong,
stuck in a
we're
snowstorm
all,
or something like that, and was
yeah.
like, you couldn't reach the people and know what to do, or
no,
who to talk to, or?
no.
Because I guess when I heard this, so we're doing a lot of updating, but I don't know exactly where we're starting from, or.
I would say from zero.
It's important, well, it's important to frame that conversation because in IT and IS, we're definitely not at zero. So
No, but you're the only ones.
we are, but I think we need to be careful about that because.
There's a manual, and I would agree that the IT piece is the most comprehensive. I think it's been years since, there's a section for each department and for each major function of the credit union. It's been years since any of that's been updated. So that's what we're going to be concentrating on. And then the notes say that there were tabletop exercises done in the past, but I wasn't involved in any of those, so I don't know to the level of detail that was done in the past. But we're not to a point where we can even have those type of exercises at this point in time, but that's something we
Because I
can
would think
address.
that we
Yeah.
also have something
We
about
ju- we
education
just-
in here.
We need to mention that because we do tabletops in IT and IS and we perform DR exercises routinely. So
Yeah,
I just think
and
that
that's where
there
the-
needs to be that distinction and because we fall under this. as
And
well.
that's where I don't think we're to a point where we have a lot of movement on this particular tactic. The super goal is September, the goal is 12/31. We're not going to be doing a lot of work in the months of June and July on this particular tactic. It's really going to fall after the strategic plan. So that's when we'll really be making a lot of headway on updating things. But we can certainly talk to what IT is already doing as kind of a.
I think we need to be careful with that though too, because IT is not all technology solutions in the organization, right? We have a lot of, like, you don't do anything with Meridian Link, right? So if something happens with Meridian Link, you guys have no idea. If there's something going on with Encompass, you have no idea. So there's a lot of technology that's used within the organization that is not hosted here and needs to be factored into how we would approach a DR solution.
But I think the
Keeping
key
it
is
at
that
a high
there's an
level, so
IT
keeping it at a high
disaster
level,
recovery
we would
plan
talk
in place.
about the completion of
I
that
think just changing
document
the
in
verbiage
the
is what we need to
fourth
do.
quarter.
Just
I'm sorry.
add that this is a
Hold on one second.
enterprise,
Right.
an enterprise.
Right, because
DR.
that's the big difference I see here, is there's an IT disaster recovery that you have, that sounds like it's pretty well.
We don't even have to
But it's
talk
not
about
enterprise right now.
Now, Chris,
Just
you
change the
have
verbiage.
off-site for the core, but you don't have off-site for the other servers, correct?
We do.
You do, okay.
Right.
So you do have, and where are they
We have-
housed? Like, where's that?
Our Round Lake location is.
But it's all
DR.
GLCU, it's not off-site.
Third
Like,
party
it's
shop.
not
meaning
outside of
it's a-
Illinois.
It's a
It's in
disaster
our-
recovery site. That's our disaster recovery
Right.
and backup data center.
Yes, so if something happens in Lake County, do we have,
There is a geographical issue with where
Yeah,
a DR
okay.
site is, but it is a DR site that
Okay.
we fail over to and it's full
Okay.
use. So everything we have in our production data center is workable at our DR site.
Yes.
So we have like a peak, what is it called, peak 10 or what is it, the underground thing where,
Is that the branch?
Iron Mountain, something,
yeah,
Yeah,
we don't have any.
something at a
No.
mountain that would be nice. There's no mountains.
yeah.
Unless you go to one.
Well, like, we had our offsite in Arizona at Alliant, so, in New Jersey, so we could hit either one to flip over. And that way, if something happened in Lake County where a tornado comes through, we're not hosed.
And I would think, everybody in this room, maybe Diana, you know, because we have folks in this room that really aren't familiar with what we even have today. It's probably worthwhile, beyond this meeting, just getting that and sharing what we do have so everybody's aware, so that when your team comes calling on, okay, each area, we need to update and look, it's not the first time everybody's reviewing it. And I know we talked before about it needs to evolve, but I think the first point is everybody here, if you can share that, would help at least let people know what we're dealing with. And then the other, you're gonna look at a vendor to help us on that, right? Because they can identify the risk and rate it and then put in what we need to put in, aren't we?
We hadn't talked about that, but we can certainly look into that.
Yeah, I gave Camille a few vendors to look at.
Oh, really? Okay.
So you may want to circle back with him, or I can give you a couple. It makes it much easier when you have somebody else come on site and provide it all and input it and do it, and then they give you the finished product.
Is there an element here that out of state that's, where we're updating everything, but we also have to be educating people so they have knowledge of what it is?
So-
As an example, 9/11, I was working downtown in 9/11, and I knew that we had backup in Schaumburg, and I was to report to Schaumburg
If something were to
yeah,
happen.
I was a couple blocks from Sears Tower, so we all were kind of questioning whether we were supposed to go to Schaumburg, but at least we knew where to go and what to use. right?
Some of that is in there,
Yeah,
So
and
but
that-
in that
Yeah.
document.
and so what,
But I think people don't have that document.
right, but
So-
the incident response
It's really on
plan,
me.
as
Yeah.
mentioned, will be done by the end of the year. So,
Right.
Diana, that would be communicated out. I know there are pieces prior to that, but that would be communicated out or accessible from a central location so people could review, correct?
Yeah, it's out there on the iDrive. I can direct the management team to it. It's just sorely in need of updating. It's not in any fashion a document that I would want to share with the staff at this point. It's because it has so many updates that are needed. Just locations aren't updated completely. There's a lot of work to it. The foundation of the document is still somewhat sound. It's just the things that people are going to notice are and perhaps we can just do a quick update to get some of the locations and stuff updated so there's not some real eyesores out there. But it is on the iDrive. I'll send everyone an email this afternoon so that you can take a look at it in its current state.
You can write down Cornerstone, that's one that I told Camille to look at. They have a pretty robust automated plan.
Okay.
One thing, Diane, when you were talking about, you talked about under ERM, the exit of seasoned employees.
Yes.
So yes, that's a fact, but then one could think, well, aren't who we're getting to fill the jobs qualified or skilled?